Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa sallallahu ala rasulillah. Part 2, we're continuing to summarize about the rational judgments. And we just this makes it easier. In terms of the rational judgment, the rational necessity, what must be. The mind says that there must be a creator. What can't be, we mentioned the rational impossibility. Like we said, what the square that's a circle. Rational doesn't mean anything, can't be. And what could be, and that refers to all the created phenomena. All the phenomena, because all the phenomena is created. Whether it's what? The customary phenomena or the what? Uncustomary. So that's it. What must be, God must exist. What can't be, the rational impossibility. What could be, the creations. Whether those things we're familiar with or what? Not familiar with. And there could be other things, incredible things that will happen in the future, which are beyond what we are familiar with. And we know there would be incredible things in the future when Dajjal comes, for example. So that's that. Now let's talk about an important point to mention. The rational impossibilities don't become possible. And why such an idea leads to very bad beliefs. The rational impossibility for the reason it's what? Rationally what?
Impossible.
Impossible. Possibility. The rational impossibility doesn't become possible. And it would lead to what? Absurdities to claim so. In the example we mentioned many times, in the Christian doctrine, they say that Jesus became God. This is a what? For a human being, for the originated to become beginningless is a rational what?
Impossibility.
Rational impossibility. The originated can't become beginnings. It's an absurdity. God is, one of the attributes of God is what? Beginninglessness. Meaning eternality, existing without a beginning. So the originated, how could the originated, by definition, it has a what? A beginning, right?
Yeah.
So how could the originated become beginningless? It's impossible. So this is how we know, for example, that Jesus, one of the many reasons, he is a prophet. We know he is a prophet. He is a prophet, but we know he could not be God. Because if a human could become God, then one is opening the doorway to all kinds of what? Absurdities. If a human can become God, then why can't a goat? You follow?
Mm-hmm. Then you have alleged gods.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. If they make that claim, then why not? We mentioned earlier a squirrel. Why not a mosquito? You follow? It leads to all kinds of hideous, ugly kufr. The originated can't become beginningless. The statement itself is a what? Contradiction. The one who is beginningless, Allah Ta'ala, does not become anything. God does not change, does not develop. Because development what? Indicates specification. Being specified with one condition over what? Another. So that's that. So just to be clear about this. Because sometimes sometimes the Christians will say this too. Yeah, the Christians. Sometimes atheists will ask a similar type of question, where they will say, and you don't tell them, you do not tell them yes, you don't tell them no, you tell them the question is an absurdity. So the Christian, because the power of Allah, this is the point we want to mention. Well, the thought. It's okay. No, I'll figure it out, Michelle. And the slip of the hand. And that goes back to what we just said. If somebody says God's power is related to the impossibilities, then it would lead to the claims like we mentioned, claiming that a human being could become God, that God could get murdered. These are what? Absurdities. But once a person opens the door to say that those things are possible, then other things would also be what? Possible, according to that. Because not only, as we see with the Hindus, they not only worship a person, they worship multitude of people, rats, fire, all kinds of animals. So because they don't understand what is appropriate to believe about God and what isn't, so they attribute Godhood to a multitude of things. So that's what this is how you deal with that. Brother Tarek, how much more time?
18 minutes.
Okay, oh yeah, so we have some time, a lot of time. Let's go ahead now and read from the text. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. This is continuing. We're talking about Allah being the creator of this world. And we said the basic proof is mentioned that if a person looks at the world around him, he or she would conclude that, well, there has to be a creator. So now let's mention, this is going to reiterate what we've been discussing, but we're going to mention some details. It says, with the sound mind, we know irrefutably that every writing has a writer. The act of hitting has to have a hitter, and the building has to have a builder. Therefore, it follows that this universe, with all the creations in it, has to have a creator, who is alive, who is attributed with life, attributed with will, knowledge, and power, and we know the name of the creator is Allah. Allah is the one who does not resemble any of the creations, and nothing resembles Allah. The sound mind does not accept the existence of an action without someone who carried it out. So when you came here and you saw, for example, the Basmala, you automatically know somebody what wrote it. You don't say, well, maybe it wrote itself. You don't even when you come to the building, right away somebody what built it. Did you see the builders of this building?
No.
I never saw them. Do you hesitate for a moment that this was built? No. You don't assume it always existed, and you don't assume it what built itself. So somebody had some group of people, they what? Built it. So it's very clear. So when you look at this building, which is not that complex compared to the universe itself, if this building has a builder, and this building is not that complex, it is a complex system, but not that complex compared to the what? World. Universe. So then you would say, well, the building has a building, then the universe has a builder, the building has a builder, then the universe must have a maker, a creator.
The creator had to be more knowledgeable than the builder of the building, to the creation.
Because of the complexity and vastness of the creation. No. And so it says, it is not conceivable, it is not, the mind rejects, it is not conceivable for nature to be the creator, because nature has no will. Meaning by nature, the normal what? Phenomena. You have what? The clouds, the different things that happen, the heat, the temperature, the volcanoes, all of this, but these things don't have a what? Will. They can't what? Specify. Do the clouds specify their particular form? No. The mountains, they specify themselves with their shape? No.
All the things is the creation of Allah.
Yeah, they all are what? Is it not conceivable? We mentioned last night. Couldn't a given cloud formation be different than it is? Yeah. So it's what? Specified with one condition at that time as opposed to what?
Another condition.
It's specified. The universe is what? Specified. Because it can't give itself its own attributes. If you are not wealthy, can you make yourself at that moment be a millionaire? No. You follow? For us, practically speaking, can any of us become starting power forward for the Memphis Grizzlies coming season? Would you like the contract?
No.
But you can't what? Specify yourself with the ability, that athletic ability, but also size, to be what? Starting power forward for the Memphis Grizzlies. Probably not even a point guard. You follow? Plenty of people who play point are our height, but still we cannot specify ourselves with that ability. So this means that we are specified beings, as everything around us is specified. So they have to have a creator. Easy. And we said nature, it doesn't create because it doesn't have this attribute of what it cannot specify. It doesn't have a will. Also, we said what? The thing could not create itself. This is absurd. And it says, for example, the child is born, small, the infant. He does not walk, he does not talk or walk. Then he what? Develops. He starts gradually and slowly to talk and walk. So the child doesn't come out the womb. You look at the horse, the foal, when it's born, a couple hours later, it's walking. It's walking. The human infant takes, what, like about a year to start walking, or he goes through what? Development. So he starts gradually and slowly to talk and walk, then he matures and becomes a young man, then middle aged, then elderly, if he lives that long. And then after he's elderly, he inevitably dies. He might not reach it to become elderly, but if he does become elderly, he will die. Who changed him and transformed him from one state to another? Allah. Allah is the one who created and changed him and willed for him to die. So what's the saying of Al-Junayd, one of the sayings? That change is the greatest indication of being a creation. And we should copy that down. So that summarizes what we're talking about. Change is the greatest indication of being a creation. Because all this phenomena.
Both of y'all said it was how the creations are all subject to change.
The two creations are all subject to change. I'll put it up for you, inshallah. Change is the greatest indication of being a creation. We're going to keep in mind that name Al-Junayd because it's going to come up again, inshallah. Al-Junayd was one of the masters of Islamic spirituality. Al-Junayd. Say Al-Junayd, that's it, that's enough. Al-Junayd. Change is the greatest indication of being a creation. Change is what? Being specified with one condition, and then what? Being specified with another condition. The Creator doesn't change. Even in the Bible, I believe it's in the book of Malachi, it says, I, the Lord, do not change. Which what? Opposes the Christian belief, doesn't it?
Yep.
I believe it's book of Malachi, maybe chapter 1, verse 6, but I don't remember that for sure. It says, I, the Lord, do not change. How much more time do I have?
11 minutes.
What's that?
11 minutes.
Okay.
But Al-Junayd.
Al-Junayd, one of the great masters of Islamic spirituality.
Oh, okay.
Now let's mention about Abu Hanifa. What happens to the weather? Changes. The day? What? Each day changes. Things change. That's life.
You got 4 seasons, you got seasons.
You got seasons. The human being goes through moods.
Then you got some part that come down 2 seasons.
Yeah, but you
Don't change.
I'm good.
And Allah specified to be that way.
that way as opposed to
Or to another way. They specified it didn't have 4 seasons, specified it didn't have 2 seasons.
There you go. That's it. Easy, easy, easy. Now let's mention here from the text a story of a man who denied the existence of Allah. This is not Abu Hanifa is not the one who denied it. Abu Hanifa is the one who refuted this man. So it says it was related that a man who denied the existence of the Creator once came to one of the caliphs, one of the Muslim rulers, and told him, "The scholars of your time say that there's a Creator for this universe, and I am prepared to prove to them that this universe has no Creator." So the caliph sent for one of the top scholars, meaning Abu Hanifa, telling him of this man's claim and ordering him to come, meaning ordering Abu Hanifa to come to what? To debate. In the old days, there was a deviant. They would get scholars to what? To debate these deviants, because you don't want the deviants to spread. Yeah, so this is part of ordering the good and forbidding the evil. This is a good point here, because you meet a lot of these people nowadays, and they'll tell you, like I told you on Friday, say, "Who are you to judge? And how can you say that person's wrong?" The scholars, this is one of their duties. We're not scholars, but because there are not a lot of scholars available in this society, we have to acquire this knowledge, meaning some of us at least, to what? To defend the religion. Because if one deviant he spreads, that deviation is likely to lead to what? Another, till the person becomes so far removed from the truth. So they were having this meeting. The caliph welcomed him, or let's say the scholar. He came. Abu Hanifa came to the meeting purposely late. The caliph welcomed him and seated him in the center of the session. Present at this session were many scholars and important people. So the man said, meaning the atheist, he said, "Why were you late in your arrival?" And what he was trying to say is, you came late because you were what? Scared. This is the atheist. Yeah, he's the atheist, usually what? Arrogant. Atheism and arrogance usually go what? Go together. Because they're so arrogant they even deny their Lord. So it makes sense. They would typically be arrogant. So the atheist said, "Why were you late?" And again, he's trying to say, like, you were scared. This is why you showed up. So then the scholar said, "What if?" He's not lying. He said, "What if?" He said, "What if I tell you that a very strange matter occurred to me, and because of it, I was late?" He said, "My house is on the far side of the Tigris River. I came to cross the river, but I did not find anything other than an old boat with broken planks. When my gaze fell on it, the planks moved, they came together, reassembled themselves, and the boat became seaworthy." He said, "What if I told you?" He's not lying. He's not lying. He said, "All this happened," and then Abu Hanifa said, the meaning, "all this happened without the work of a carpenter or a boat maker or a worker. I sat in it, crossed the river, and came to this place." So then the atheist said, "Oh people, listen to what your scholar says. Have you heard of anything more absurd than this? How can a boat exist without a carpenter or shipbuilder to build it?" He said, "This is an explicit lie." And then Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu said, "Oh blasphemer," again using a kafir, right? "Oh blasphemer, if the mind does not accept the existence of a boat without a builder or a carpenter, then how do you dare say that this entire universe exists without a creator?" The man was silent, he was refuted, and the scholar punished that man for his bad beliefs. Because if you don't accept the boat, we said, this building, you know right away it has had buildings. If somebody told you otherwise, you would laugh at them. So again, what's more complex, this building or the universe? Okay, inshallah, we'll stop this session or stop this part, and we'll go to part 3, inshallah.